Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game Marvel United. This was sent to me by CMON, and it's designed by Eric M. Lang, Andrea Charvesio, with art by Edouard Guiton. Sorry. In Marvel United, you take the role of iconic Marvel heroes cooperating to stop the master plan of a powerful villain controlled by the game. Each villain unveils their unique master plan with cards that trigger different effects and threats that pose challenges across the locations. Heroes must choose carefully the cards to play from their unique deck. They not only offer different actions and superpowers to use, but also combine with the actions of other heroes to do the impossible. Build your storyline, unite your powers, and save the day. Let me show you how to play. So in Marvel United, you are trying to defeat the villain. And in order to defeat the villain, you got to do at least 2 of these 3 available missions. These involve clearing threats, rescuing civilians, defeating thugs. When you've done 2 of those 3 missions, then you can attack the villain, and then you're just trying to take out his health, and then you win. You lose if the villain completes their master plan. The villain has a deck of cards, and if they either achieve the villainous plot, in this case, Red Skull's thing is about a fear track, where if it reaches 20, the heroes lose, or if he runs out of cards in his master plan deck, or if any hero starts their turn with no cards both in their deck and in their hand. Now, we have this city here with 6 different locations. These are random each time. And on the start of the game, the villain always goes first. So you draw the top card, and you look at it. This is the start of the storyline that will guide the entire game. Each master plan card has different elements that must be executed in order from top to bottom, one after the other. So for this here, it means move. So we look down here, and we move Red Skull 2 spaces. Now this symbol means we do a BAM effect. So we look at Red Skull's BAM effect, and what it says here is deal 1 damage to each hero in Red Skull's location and increase the fear track by 2. There are no heroes there, but we do increase the fear track. Then if the current area has a activation symbol like this, then you would do whatever it says. So discard all thugs and civilians from this location and advance the fear track by the number of tokens discarded this way. So these 4 are discarded. We move the fear track up by 4. And then we place tokens on the locations. So what this card means is on the space he's on, we're going to put 2 civilians. And then on the spaces adjacent to that space, we're going to put 1 civilian each. Sometimes the cards will have like a special effect, like here, Hydra Insurgency. For each crisis token, the heroes have advanced the fear track by 1. But most cards are usually involving some kind of movement, some kind of BAM effect, or regular effects, and then placement of tokens on locations. Now, the reason why these tokens are important is if you ever run out of space and can't place tokens, an overflow effect happens, which I'll get into later. Now, once the master plan card has been resolved, then the heroes can act. The players choose which hero will start, and they take their turns in clockwise order. So you start with 3 cards in your hand. They all kind of look like this. And then on your turn, you draw a card. If you were knocked out, you draw up to 4 cards instead. Then you choose a card, and you play it to the storyline. So cards that have been played go into the sort of storyline. So this next card would go here. This means you can move and attack. So old Cap here could move over here, and then he can take out a thug, and then that thug token goes on here. You can also use those attack actions to beat up henchmen here. So here we have Bob, Agent of Hydra. Cap could have instead punch him for 1 attack and take his health down. Because these henchmen are sort of threats that do negative effects. Like here, hero starting their turn in this location take a crisis token, which is not great. And also, like I said before, if you fill out 2 of these missions, these start to clear out. And when you do 2 of them, Captain America could actually punch Red Skull directly for 1 damage if he wanted to. But currently, he is still protected by these missions. Now, movement is pretty straightforward. It's the green arrow, you just move a space to any adjacent location. But yellow symbols, these are heroic actions. And what this can do is you can either rescue a civilian. So if Cap was on this space, he could rescue a civilian and add it to the mission pile. Or if Captain America was on, let's say, this space, he could put one of the heroic action tokens on this threat card. Because right now, Hydra Elite Troops is in effect, and each thug in this location requires 2 damage to be defeated, which is pretty annoying. So if you put a token on here, then you're one step closer to finishing off this this threat. If you've put all 3 tokens on here, this gets removed, and you can place one of these tokens on the threat cleared mission. Then you'll see underneath there's an end of turn effect, which this one says you may discard 1 thug from any location. So if you end your turn on that space, you can remove a thug. Now, like Red Skull's card, some of these have special effects, like leadership. Captain America, you give a wild token from the pool to another hero. These special tokens can be given to another character and can be saved. So at any point, someone could use this wild token to do a fight, heroic action, or a move. And like I said, if Cap ended his turn here, you would do the end of turn effect. Now, how this game works is, let's say Hulk was next. Hulk could play this card. And not only does Hulk get to do a heroic action, he also gets to combine his actions with the card that was played before him. So on this turn, he would look at the previous card. That means during this turn, Hulk can move once, fight once, and do a heroic action once. So, if we look at Hulk, he could go, okay, I'm going to do my heroic action, save the civilian, and then I'm going to move over here, and then I'm going to punch this thug. And again, we're getting closer and closer to our missions. But you can use the previous card in play along with the card you play to do actions. Now, once the active player has done all the steps of their turn, the next player in clockwise order becomes the active player, and each player does their turn. Anytime 3 hero cards have been added to the storyline here, so let's say, Iron Man played a card. There are 3 hero cards in play, so that means Red Skull gets another turn. In this case, he would move 2, and he would place some thugs and do some bams. And so the storyline continues. Now let's go into Overflow. Let's say in Stark Labs here we had to play some tokens, but we couldn't fit any. So maybe Red Skull had to put, 2 thugs here, but he put 1 here and then he couldn't have space for another one. Then you go look at the villain's Overflow effect. If a civilian or thug token can't be added to a location, increase the fear track by 1 for each token you couldn't add. So, leaving these tokens on the board and locations isn't necessarily a good idea because it'll start to build up fear in this scenario. Now, once you've completed your first mission, let's say we saved 9 civilians, you remove this card and then these slide over. And that means now we are under pressure, which means the villain will act after every 2 hero cards in the storyline. He's going to start working faster. If you clear another one, let's say we clear 4 threats, then we unlock another step, and now Red Skull is vulnerable to damage, and we can start hitting him directly, which is very important. If you clear all 3, which is not mandatory, but if you do, you get to draw a card. Every hero gets to draw a card as a reward. Like I mentioned before, heroes can get damaged by the villain or henchman due to BAM effects. For each damage a hero takes, they must discard 1 card from their hand and place it at the bottom of their deck. If you ever discard the last card from your hand, you are knocked out. You lay down your player's game piece, and to indicate you are ignored by all game effects, both negative and positive. Then immediately resolve the BAM effect on the villain dashboard, which in this case it would be fear track by 2 and attacking anyone in his location, which could cause another hero to be KO'd, which create a chain reaction. At the start of their next turn, their pieces placed back upright, and during the draw card step, they draw up to 4 cards from their deck to reset. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. You're running around trying to save civilians, beat thugs, take out threats, either by defeating henchmen or clearing out different cards. And there are different effects in play with the different heroes. Let's kind of look at some of the other villains here. Taskmaster is tricky because he adds crisis tokens, which are these exclamation point tokens that come into play. And his special rules indicate that he cannot be damaged as long as there are any crisis tokens on any location, which is pretty annoying. And then Ultron here, he can do a bunch of overflow stuff, where if you overflow, he adds tokens to the next location, and he wins if all locations are occupied by tokens. Then the heroes immediately lose. And his band, he just adds 3 thugs to a location, which means he's constantly filling the locations with tokens. Otherwise, each deck has, you know, special little perks and stuff. I'm not going to go through every single one, but there are 7 different heroes that come in the box, including Ant-Man, Wasp, Captain Marvel, and then we have Black Widow, Hulk, Iron Man, and Captain America as well. But that's pretty much the game. Just run around and protect the city. So I've played other games that had a similar feel to this, with the whole kind of modular board where you run around and try to stop villains. DC deck building game Rebirth in episode 71 had a similar feel to this, and that game was pretty decent. And then Mint Cooperative in episode 101 felt like the bad version of this. This game, though, feels like the most refined, simple, all ages friendly version of this. Even though it's kind of easy and simple, it's actually very fun to play. What works for me with this game is it boils the game down to 3 main tasks. And despite the changing factors of villains and their plots and all their minions and stuff, you're always focusing on those 3 things, which is beating up thugs, saving civilians, foiling the little threats or whatever. The fact that you only have to do 2 of them gives the game some flexibility and freedom, which I really appreciate. You might go, okay, these threats are really annoying, let's just focus on getting rid of the token. The storyline system is clever. I like how it makes you discuss, oh, okay, you go first so that if I go next, I can chain your movement with my card. You know, it's a smart system. I do think it is awkward for table space, though, because it fills up very fast as you're playing these cards. I really think they should have had it so you could stack the cards vertically and just made it like a line down. That would have made a lot more sense than, like, there's no real way to do it with these cards. Because all you really need to see for chaining them is the cards that have been played, or the symbols on the bottom of the card. So that seemed like a little bit of an oversight, but, you know, it's still a good system. I do think there's some issues with balancing. For example, Taskmaster is a villain who has a super unconventional system in how you have to beat him. You have to get rid of those little icons before you could even touch him. But somebody like Black Widow or Hulk, for example, is very heavily focused on just attacking. And it doesn't necessarily help you, and you find yourself losing because you literally just don't have the right symbols on your cards to do anything. That's also why, although I like the storyline system, near the end of the game it can feel very restrictive, because if you run out of a certain type of action early on, just because some of you picked really, like, let's say, attack-focused characters, you're screwed, because you literally can't, like, do some of the objectives because you don't have that type of symbol anymore. Not that you're going to be screwed that often, because, like I mentioned before, this is a pretty easy game. Maybe a little too easy, but it's still fun. But that's why the Taskmaster stuff feels kind of annoying, because it felt like the difficulty was out of your hands. It wasn't because we had, like, the wrong decisions, it was because we just chose the wrong characters, which I guess, you know, if you get more familiar with the game, that's not going to be a problem, but just keep that in mind in your first couple plays, that sometimes you need to make sure you look through and see if this is the right fit of characters for a specific villain. Overall, though, I really admire how simple this is to learn. I like the fun combo play of the cards, and also the minis, they look absolutely amazing. If you like Marvel, and you want to play a fun, accessible co-op game that I think even kids can play, this is a very solid choice. Like, I enjoyed this quite a bit.